Good morning. It's 6:23. You're listening to Information Radio on CBC Radio 1 on this frosty morning in Winnipeg. It's -1 and clear right now at the Forks. I'm Emily Brass. As Americans head to the polls today, people on both sides of the border are waiting for the results. Some might be feeling anxious as the uncertainty can weigh heavily on our minds. For some tips on managing anxiety during these tense times, we've reached registered psychologist Janine Hubbard. Hello, Janine.
Good morning. I know I'm feeling the anxiety. How about yourself?
Well, there's so much uncertainty, like, because it's so unclear, there's no obvious winner at this point. That can make people probably feel pretty anxious. Why do you think people are feeling anxious around, big events like elections?
Well, there's a couple of reasons. One is uncertainty, and in particular, uncertainty around something that we have no control over is likely to escalate anxiety because we know we like to manage things, and what is unpredictable makes us feel anxious. It sometimes makes us feel kind of helpless. The other thing is, as we've seen in this election, like many others, it's been very polarizing. And what happens is that's great in terms of engagement in politics and hopefully getting people out to vote. Because if you're not very invested in the outcome, you might not get terribly involved. You might not bother. But the problem when things get very polarized is that we start engaging in this all or nothing thinking that, well, if the party I support doesn't win, the world is going to end tomorrow. It's going to be catastrophic, as opposed to being able to take it in a bit more of a measured response and say, okay, things might not everything's going to go the way that I'm hoping, but the world is not going to end. We do cope in much more nuanced situations. And reminding yourself of some of that is one of the ways that you can start to cope with that anxiety.
Yeah, and that black and white thinking that you touched on. How can people recognize maybe, when they get to a point where their anxieties become overwhelming?
Well, we expect it today and tomorrow. There's some short-term coping strategies that we can look at, but it's a question of, as news kind of passes along, as we're a couple of days out of the election, are you able to resume your normal activities, your normal coping strategies, or is it still something that's really preoccupying your thoughts? Short term for today, couple of pieces of advice. Give yourself a bedtime. You're not going to know the results until tomorrow sometime, and staying up late or checking the news in the middle of the night. I might have done that myself in a previous US election. Not a great idea, because you will then be sleep deprived and anxious and stressed. And the other piece is, be really mindful of your social media usage, and in particular, how much you're posting or commenting or saying anything over the next day or two. Remember that those comments made in the heat of the moment with heightened emotions may come back to haunt you a little bit. So really think more than twice or three times, is it really something I need to post? Can I sleep on it?
Yeah. And we've been hearing some people, already experiencing these high level of anxiety for quite a while now. What are some healthy ways to cope with anxiety during times of uncertainty?
Well, one of the biggest things is looking at your perspective taking, looking and going, okay, I know this has dominated the news cycle in all kinds of ways, and it's been a bit of a circus, so it's been really easy to get sucked into it. But reminding yourself, how much does this actually impact myself and my loved ones on a daily basis? Kind of taking that step back and going, okay, yes, there's going to be some impact, but really and truly, I still need to do the laundry. I still need to go to work. I still need to be able to focus and concentrate. So engaging in some active distraction, especially today. Today is not the day to debate politics with someone whose viewpoint you don't agree with. It's just going to escalate emotions, and it's not going to solve anything. So either having conversations where you agreed not to talk about politics, or going for a walk, getting some, I know it's cold out there, but getting some fresh air, getting some exercise, putting on a silly movie tonight instead of watching the news, whatever you can do to kind of help give yourself some perspective and some distance, and be very mindful about your media usage and your social media exposure.
Sounds like you're saying that taking breaks from the news is a really good thing, even during these tense moments. But are there any signs that maybe indicate it's time to get professional help for your anxiety?
Well, and sometimes there's been low level anxiety, or even it's been pretty high for a while, but then something like this event kind of puts you over the edge. And so you want to really reevaluate over the next week or so and kind of going, okay, have I been able to gain perspective? Am I sleeping well? Am I engaging in good coping strategies? Or is this continuing to preoccupy my thoughts, cause me to feel distracted, difficulty focusing, and difficulty moving on, or having really disproportionate reactions to things? That might be a sign of, you know what, I've kind of been ignoring all those warning signs, that my anxiety was getting higher than I was comfortable with, because some anxiety around this, totally normal. Absolutely want to validate that in people. But if it's feeling like it's interfering with daily life, that's your big signal that maybe it's time to seek some help.
Wow. Okay. Well, that's really great to know. Thank you so much for joining us, Janine.
Oh, anytime. Thank you, everybody. And we're going to get through this one way or the other.
Yes, it'll all be over soon. Thank you, Janine.
Okay, take care.
Janine Hubbard.